Hey, how you doing? This is John, and welcome to John's LongBox. I'm here with Carol Lay. How are you doing today?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. For those you don't know, but I've been home from work for the past 3.5 months due to a car accident. I'm going back to work next week. I can't help but be nervous, after being away for so long. So,
sorry to hear that.
Yeah. I know people in the chat always ask me how you doing. So, excuse me. So, for those of you who don't know, you are a comic writer and artist, and I have to say, if I fell in love with Good Girls, I saw the cover to issue 3 with Irene, and I was like, I have to get this comic. I'm a big fan of Love and Rockets and alternative comics, so. I had to get this and I got a million questions to ask about that if you don't mind.
Shoot.
Okay. For those of you who don't know, Good Girls was a Fantagraphics book, 6 issues, and it started out like a woman writing love advice.
I have the collected Irene stories here. Should I
yes.
hold it up for the camera?
Yeah, sure. I'll make it big.
Okay. Here we go.
Irene Vanderkamp by Carol A.
With an introduction by Mark Mothersbaugh.
From Devo. How do you know him?
I met him through Linda Wyman, who later became a billionaire through lynda.com, if you know that site.
No.
She had a store on Vertigo, and I think this is when she was still with Matt Groening. So this is back in the 80s when LA was just really bubbling. So I did ad work for her store, Vertigo, which was sort of a new age pop clothing and giga store on Melrose.
Oh, wow.
And I forget how she had met Mark, but anyway, I wanted to meet Mark Devo.
Yeah, I'm a big Devo fan, man. I'm gushing about this story. So cool.
Okay. I had a boyfriend at the time who had a shoebox full of nudie photos, like these quaint, high-heeled women, naked except for the shoes, cleaning out the pool, or, with a beehive hairdo. It was
wow.
Yeah, real groovy stuff. And so most of them were female, but there was one photo of 5 guys naked singing in the desert, and I just fell in love with the photo automatically, and I said, "Can I have this?" And he said, "Sure, if you do a painting of it." So I immediately thought, well, I'll just put Devo hats on them. And so I did that. Started painting this big picture, and a side note: as I was living in an apartment over, what would you call that, Koreatown, I guess, and my parents came to visit, and they walked into my living room where the easel was set up with this painting propped up on it. And my mother she had a big smile on her face because, "Oh, you're working." And then she saw what it was, these naked men. And it just turned into a frown. "Oh, you shouldn't be painting things like that." And my dad, my wonderful dad, said, "You know what? Men have been painting pictures of naked women for millennia. She's just getting even." So when it was done, Linda took me to a recording studio where Devo was doing some stuff. And Mark came out, and he just instantly fell in love with the painting. And so we clicked on some level, even though, I still get celebrity tongue-tied when I'm around him because he's so impressive and sweet. He's a really good guy.
And such a talented guy. Like he's doing music for so many TV shows. You know, he's up there with Danny Elfman as far as composing in movies and everything.
Yeah. So years later, I was visiting him at Mutato, and he asked me about the painting. He thought it had been destroyed in a fire that I had had. And I said, no, it's just sitting in my closet in Brooklyn. And we took a walk, and on the way over to Book Soup on Sunset, there was a little gallery that isn't there anymore. And we walked in, and I saw something that just thrilled me. He saw that they had a Devo hat in a case, and they wanted another one or something like that. Anyway, we did a deal where Mark gave me this wonderful thing. I'm not going to say what it is. And I gave him the painting. And he said that I could have it back anytime I wanted, but no, it belongs with him. So it's hanging over at Mutato Studio on Sunset, which is a great building if you've never seen it. It's one of those circular little structures, and he painted it lime green, so it's outstanding. And what else about that? Oh yeah, and then they ended up using it as a cover on one of their kind of reprint LPs or CDs.
Oh, and I gotta look it up.
Yeah, there was objection to having penises on that cover, and a designer at whichever label it was, wanted to put fig leaves on it, and I said no. And they wanted to put Devo hats stickers on them, and I said
that's funny because if you're gonna censor it, put little Devo hats down there. But
and I said, you can use it as is, or just I'm okay. So they doubled the offer on the licensing fee for it, and their designer just cropped it so that you would see that they're naked, but you don't see anything.
Okay.
And I go, fine. Plus that gave, good room for everything else. And so we monkeyed with the design back and forth, and that is probably available online. So that's the story of that.
Oh, that's cool. And I got nervous when you said you met Mark Weathers back there, because when people tell me that they meet people that I really like, I'm like, please don't tell me he was a jerk. Please don't, you know what I mean? Like one of my coworkers met David Bowie, and I was like, oh no, my stomach actually started to hurt. And he was like, he was the coolest, nicest, friendliest guy. He was an electrician, and he was working on I forget exactly what it was, but David Bowie was the guest. And he said, somebody had come in and said, don't talk to Mr. Bowie, don't look at him. He told me that, and I'm like, oh no, he's a diva, he's a Trump, you know what I mean? So my coworker was sitting outside during his coffee break, just smoking a cigarette. He couldn't smoke inside the studio, so he's sitting outside by the garbage cans and dumpsters and everything like that, just smoking. And he says the door opens up and Bowie comes walking out, and he got all scared. He's like, if I look at him, am I going to get fired and everything? And Bowie went, listen, I didn't tell anybody not to talk to me. I didn't tell anybody not to look at me. That's just something that they do. I had nothing to do with it. And right now, I'd really like to bum a smoke. And he said he sat down in the filth right on the curb, and they had a cigarette and they talked. He said he was the greatest guy. But anyway, I'm babbling. But when you said Mark, I was like, uh-oh. So I'm really great to say that I'm really happy that he was a good guy. I'm a big comic book guy. The people I met Walt Simonson. I'm like, oh no, please tell me Walt was cool. But everybody loves Walt. Everybody has great stories. So Shadowpunk says, what did I just walk into? We're talking with Carol A, a longtime comic book creator. And I was talking about your Fantagraphic book, Good Girls. Like I said, it started out as Miss Lonely Hearts. At least that was the main strip. And then Irene I have a feeling, and I think you acknowledged it in the letters pages, that character kind of like escaped you and demanded to become the star of that comic. Am I misremembering, or is that kind of what happened?
That's what happened. She came about because I read a collection of romance comics that I think DC had put out. Modern romance, I can't remember what it was, but every one of those stories was false. It's like, stupid happy endings were, and the only story I liked in the whole collection was the one where she didn't, end up with the guy. And I just thought, well, I like that idea because that's more realistic, or at least it's not as fantasy driven. So at the time, that same ex-boyfriend showed me a picture, I think it was in a Hustler magazine, of 3 Ubangi women with the big lips,
Right.
which is actually like a piece of ivory that they cut the lip, stretch it out gradually until, wow. And
Right.
then I think it might have been something like, the bigger the lip, the more cattle you get when you marry, or something like that.
Right.
It was a real status thing. So, and they couldn't eat with them or converse with these things in. And it's like, what a weird thing to do to your body. So I decided to do it to a character in a comic. Only instead of somebody indigenous to Africa, this is sort of a false Tarzan story where an heiress to some wine and dine fortune in Pasadena is orphaned as a baby in somewhere in Africa, and she's adopted by the tribe that does this thing. So she thinks that is amazing,
Right.
and a beautiful thing. And so, but because she's white, she's sort of, not eligible to marry within that tribe, and she ends up being very alone. Now, this kind of channeled my own sense of isolation or loneliness, which has its good and bad sides. I think that cartoonists tend to be loners.
I say that a lot, actually.
Yeah, because, if you're out partying, you can't get any work done. There we go.
Yeah, I just wanted to show in case people didn't know what we were talking about. I saw this image in my comic book store, and Larry, the guy who owned the comic, he was always pushing me to read more than just Spider-Man, Batman, and Fantastic Four. I call him my comic book pusher my whole life, and he got me to read like Love and Rockets, and he was pursuing his own comics. He got me to read Cerebus, and then after I was like, this caught my eye, and I've been fascinated with this comic. I reread it every couple of years, believe it or not.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And Alan Moore said he loved it. So there you go. So I'm sorry I cut you off by showing the picture.
Oh, well, I lost my train of thought. So
I'm sorry.
So ask me another question.
What I found, what you were just saying is, I find that comic book people are mostly, when I say comic book people, I mean creators, artists, writers, and for the most part, fans. It's a solo activity.
Yes.
Like I'm a construction worker. So, when I go back to work, I'm surrounded by people. There's noise, there's this, there's that, and for the most part, we can't do anything by ourselves. We'll lift the things that are too heavy. We're in a hole, so we need another person. So there's constantly somebody else around. So I'm a weirdo that way. I'm a comic book fan that enjoys the company of other people. But when I have talks with people, I find that a lot of people say, oh, it's difficult to talk, whatever. And I feel like when I read my comics, I'm home by myself. When I'm begging and boarded up by myself. And I imagine artists are drawing solo. So this, like you said, this character, I guess is an outgrowth of that. She's alone in the crowd. She's alone in her home, Africa. She's alone when she comes back to America. I
She's a weirdo.
Yeah, she's a weirdo.
And that's what attracted Mothersbaugh to her immediately. You know, he's into kind of mutant ideology, I guess you'd say. So, and that's how it ended. Okay, I did the first story, and it first appeared with 10 pages in the Stark Fist of Removal, which is a Subgenius publication. And that was back in 1980. And then when I did the first Good Girls comic for Fantagraphics, it was sort of a backup story. But yes, it sort of just plowed the other one over. Because, you know, I was trying to be kind of commercial. I was looking at what the Hernandez brothers were doing, and it's like, wow, they do great women. I want to do good stories about women in contemporary society, but it was too normal. Whereas Irene is very odd, and yeah, and gave me a lot of opportunity to go even weirder.
Yeah, like one thing that I remember reading it, and I was like, they stole the, I guess, the plates out of her and her mouth, and she was like, she didn't want people to look at her, you know what I mean? Because it's the way she was raised. Her beauty standards are what she is. Doesn't matter that she's an outsider because she's a Caucasian in a I don't know what tribe, Ubangi, I forget what tribe it was, but
I think they were called the Bongodians.
Yeah, and so, you know, and then in the tribe, she didn't fit in. Like there was like a dance, like everybody was like partnering off, and nobody was taking her. And I think that's when it struck home that I'm an outsider. You know, it doesn't matter. And then when she goes home being America, where she, you know, her family was from, she rejected plastic surgery because she's like, but this is who I am. This is my identity. Like, I know it makes me stand out, but this is who I am. This is how I see myself. So it's like, poor girl can't get a break anywhere she goes.
But she's incredibly wealthy. So
but she's incredibly wealthy.
Makes
yes,
her attractive to some people.
right. Yeah. So hijinks ensue. We get people with less than good intentions, you know, and then she. It's just a crazy story. Jeez, I just realized I was about to give away your whole story. Guys, read the story. You know, like I said, it's a story that really it got to me, and I reread it every couple of years.
Well, the book that Last Gasp put together, the collection, it has I think a 20-something page additional story that you may not have seen if you don't.
No, I didn't, because I bought the floppies back. You know, I was missing one, and it drove me crazy, and I finally got it. So I was able to read the whole story. The Last Gasp. So do you have a website? Just ask your local comic book store to pick it up for you. How can we get the Last Gasp edition?
Parallel.com, and that book is listed. Okay, there's a store section. There's a lot of layers to that website, but there's a store, and then I think books would be a subset of that.
Okay, so we'll go to store, original art, books.
There we go.
There we go. Murderberg.
Murderberg's coming out. There we go. Good Night, Irene.
Good Night, Irene. Yeah. Oh, I love the cover.
Thank you. It's a parody of John Singer Sargent's portrait of Madam X.
Yeah.
So I just copied it and put Irene's head on it.
And you also wrote a novel about Wonder Woman.
Yeah. That was fun. Charlie Kochman was editing a few superhero novels for DC, basically the Justice League. And I wanted to do the Wonder Woman, the only woman in the batch. And I'm not into superheroes or people who fly, but I really like that character because she had a strong mother character that somebody in the other DC, comic book universe had killed off, and it's like, I'm just going to ignore that because mother-daughter relationships can be very meaty.
Yeah.
And also a tie to her Amazonian roots. Or
Yeah,
what was she? What's the one where they lop off a breast so they can be
that's the
better
Amazon.
folks?
It literally means
Okay. Yeah.
without breast.
Mm-hmm.
The Greek myth is, I'm a big into Greek myths, is that they cut off, they actually like burnt it off as where they would develop so they could pull their bows without a booby getting in the way.
Yeah, but it's not getting in the way.
Hey, I didn't make up the myths.
I think you'd be.
These are the same people that saw the Thracians
side.
riding their horses so well that they said that they're one being, and now we got centaurs. I love Greek mythology, and I love like dissecting it and finding out where it actually came from. Like, the story of the birth of Athena. It's just so telling to see, how these myths came about. Like with the sociologists, or is that the word, anthropologists? I forget who studies the myths. What the stories were like. Two tribes met. One tribe worshipped this female deity, Thetis. Zeus swallowed her whole, and then Athena burst from. It's a story about how the tribe came and just took them in, maybe married their women, and then through them, the goddess Thetis was just metastasized into Athena. I just love all that stuff. I'm pontificating, but you talk about Greek mythology, forget it. I'll go on forever.
I know, much better than the Romans, right?
Well, the Roman mythology is always like they take all the mystic and majesty and awe of the Greek mythology and then just turn it like utilitarian and take out all the fun stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, we could use this. We don't need that. Like the Romans, I thought were more practical than the Greeks. The Greeks had their heads in the air, and the Romans had their heads at their neighbors.
Oh, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, so that's why the Greeks, they just stopped. they got conquered by these more realistic, grounded people. For good or for bad, I'm a history major.
Mm.
I'm the most educated construction worker on my job site. Yeah. So you started out. I was catching up on you because I wanted to, know about you before we started talking, so I didn't look too foolish, rather than just gushing about the one story over and over again. But you went for graphic arts, and you kind of fell into comics. That wasn't really your grand plan, right?
Well, I studied fine art at UCLA.
Right.
And it's not very pragmatic. I learned all about art history. I learned how to paint and draw from figures, etc. But I didn't learn how to make a living. So after college, I first got a job drawing Yellow Page ads. Then I kind of fell into trying to do illustrations for science fiction books, because the Change of Hobbit bookstore was down Westwood Boulevard from UCLA. So I was hanging out there a lot. Yeah. Yeah. A young Stephen King came in to do promotion, or Harlan Ellison would sit in their window and type stories.
Oh, wow.
I know. It was a cool hangout. Let's see. So
what you talk about, I graduated college with the Greco-Persian history, and now that doesn't pay the bills either. I had to go into construction, so
there you go.
You'd be surprised how little Persian history comes up on a construction site.
So because of the science fiction connection, I went with some people to a comic convention in Orange County, and that's where I met the people that would influence me more. Sergio Aragones was there, Don Rico.
Oh wow, you met Sergio?
Yeah. Mark
He's one of my comic
Evanier.
heroes. Please tell me he's a great guy.
Oh yeah, he's swell. He's got the best mustache.
He does.
Let's see, Scott Shaw. There were a bunch of people, and Mark Evanier. He looked at my work and he could tell that I had potential, and he became my angel from then on.
Oh,
When I needed to learn something so that I could get a job, like, I was broke one time, and he said, well, I think you'd be good at doing storyboards. So he gave me a script. He showed me a finished storyboard for something, and I did some samples and got a job. So, because storyboards are very related to comics, they're way more technical, but it just takes some work to figure it out, and there you go. Especially for animation, you got to be very specific. It's almost like a blueprint.
right.
Whereas I've done storyboards for movies, and they kind of use it as a springboard. They're not going to do it literally. Although, when I was working on Top Secret, they took some of my drawings and did them literally. Or one time I figured out a sight gag that they hadn't been able to figure out how to make it work. And they had 3 directors on that, Zucker, Abrams, and Zucker. And it was bouncing a ball off a wall, and the dog catches it. And as the dog is chasing it, it flies out the window. So mapping things like that out was just fun because I love solving puzzles. Comics is a puzzle that I get to create and then solve. And it's always different. It's endlessly fascinating.
I agree.
Storyboards, for me, it's more pragmatic because I would do them when I needed money so I could do more comics.
Yeah.
And what else? But I've done so many things over the years.
Top Secret is such an underrated movie. I challenge anybody to watch that movie and not laugh.
It's on YouTube now for free.
Yeah. It's Val Kilmer's best work. I don't care what anybody says.
He was a fresh young thing when he came in.
Yeah.
They had been interviewing a few people for that role. Like Sting came in.
Really?
Yes. But Paramount was really pushing Val Kilmer, and he was charming and beautiful, and he got the job.
I don't think Sting would have worked. I don't think Sting has that wink at you, smile, charm that Val Kilmer.
Right. Yeah. And Val Kilmer did the fake Elvis very well.
Yeah. And this is my favorite joke of the whole movie. I know a little German. He's right over there.
It was fun working for them.
The scene, was it Peter O'Toole, where they do everything backwards? They filmed it back. Like, you don't realize the actors are speaking backwards, they're acting backwards, they're walking, but then they reverse the film so it's normal, but something's off and you don't catch it. That is brilliant. Now, Did you storyboard that?
No, I was the second storyboard artist on that crew. I forget why the first guy left. Or
okay.
Not that choice.
That is a really clever movie that is masquerading as a dumb, goofy movie.
It's got several influences, like Sullivan's Travels by Preston.
Excuse me.
Let me see. Night Train to Munich by Carol Reed. What's another one? Some Elvis movie. So I can't recall right now. It's been a while.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's almost like a pastiche of different movies.
Right.
And they kind of put them all together. It's a nice crazy soup. Let's put it that way. But I love the cow with the boots on. It's such a great image. That was on the movie poster.
Yeah, it is a good movie. Like you said, I don't think Sting could have pulled off the Elvis stuff. No way. I like Sting. I'm a big fan of the Police. You know, Devo, the Police. I love that whole era of like music that just came out of nowhere. And there was no other bands like Devo and the Police. So I'm not saying anything bad about Sting. I'm just saying Val Kilmer, he was the one. He was the only. So Shadowpunk, who makes an excellent comic over here. Shadowpunk, I forget. I think you're in England or Ireland. I forget. How long did you do movie storyboards?
I did them off and on for, I think I did 6 or 7. Let me see. Top Secret was probably the most popular. Let me see. What else did I do? I did one for, starts with a Z. What's the name of the director who did Runaway Train?
Oh,
I know. Yeah, and he was hanging around with Shirley MacLaine at the time. Anyway, I did one for him. It had Jim Belushi and Whoopi Goldberg.
Oh, I saw that movie.
Okay, you're one of 2 people who did. Okay, then I did A Tiger's Tale that was shot in Texas, and that was with Peter Douglas directing, Anne Margaret, and I met Charles Durning on that set. He was a sweet guy.
I like him.
Yeah, and it was a troubled production. Let's just put it that way. What else? Oh, something called Nice Girls Don't Explode, which nobody saw.
No, I like obscure movies.
Budget.
But the Whoopi Goldberg, I remember Jim Belushi was like mentally handicapped. And he kept seeing Jesus walking through the town and nobody believed him. And it turned out there was like a homeless man carrying a cross. Am I thinking of the same movie?
I don't think so. It was a road movie.
Oh well.
I can't remember what it was about.
Now I gotta Google it.
Yeah.
So and then you did animation for a while too, or you did storyboards for animation?
I did layout on a really bad Hanna-Barbera show called Casper and the Space Angels. So it was Casper and the Ghostly Trio in the future with Laverne and Shirley and Lenny and Squiggy as cops or something. And it was the worst thing I've ever worked on. And then, let's see, I did something called The Cowboys of Moo Mesa, which had talking cows riding on horses that didn't talk. It made no sense at all.
Yeah.
Let's see, I did some storyboards on Garfield and a couple of other Film Roman productions. And the last thing I did was I worked on, what was that called? Wow Wow Wubsy, which is for the 4-year-old set.
Okay.
And it was a good way to earn some money, so I sock it away so I could work on a big book.
Yeah, I have a couple of friends that work on animation, storyboard, and just things are hurting right now. They said that there's no new cartoons being slated. There's no new cartoons down the pike. You know, the writer's strike and then COVID was like a 1-2 punch on animation. So, you know, I don't know what to say. These couple of people are starting to panic, you know, so.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
Yeah. It's a rough business. Did people hire Carol based on a particular style of drawing? Shadowpunk.
No, I would say that I got hired because I have a range of styles. I was working on Simpsons comics for a few years. I forget the titles, Bart Simpson, The Simpsons, Treehouse of Horror, etc. And they said, oh, you can draw it in your style, but if you show me a model book, I'm going to do it as closely to the model as I can.
Okay.
So I ended up drawing really well for The Simpsons, and I wrote the stories as well. And that was a good gig for some time. Bill Morrison was the creative director on that. And have you seen his work? He's amazing.
No, I didn't. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah, check him out.
I will. I take, believe it or not, I take notes when I talk to people, because people always write comics, and but I got to look up Casper in Space. I got to see Laverne and Shirley as space cops or whatever, or Lenny and Squiggy as space cops.
If you can find it, I'd be amazed. It was really, really bad. But what do I know?
Yeah, paid the bills,
Yeah.
I can tell you a story about going to work and like, guys, we just got to do it this way. This is what the customer wants. It's gonna make it more difficult, more expensive, but whatever. We could do it cheaper, but this is what they want. They're yelling at us. So you got to do what the boss tells you. You got to do what the customer wants. So are we done with Irene? Is she gonna make a comeback? Are there any more stories? I sorry to keep, but I just love this character. I love. She's just, like you said, she kind of took over the comic book away from you and made it her own. Like, I can imagine she's yelling and screaming for more exposure.
I wouldn't mind doing more. I kind of progressed her through an arc, and it wrapped up nicely in Goodnight Irene. But I could always do more.
Okay.
A couple of people threatened me with doing movies, but
really
never happened. Roman Coppola, Francis Ford's one of his offspring, wanted to do it, and Mark Mothersbaugh really wanted, but I forget what happened. I used to smoke too much pot. And I probably wasn't, just emotionally well equipped to, move in that direction at that time.
Would you prefer a live action movie or
Definitely.
Yeah.
I'm
trying to think who would be brave enough, because people are going to be accused of cultural appropriation or whatever nonsense and stuff like that today.
Oh, that's true.
Do you think it's a sensitive topic? Do you think people would,
sure, somebody would squawk?
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about that,
because I think that's the whole point of the comic, is that she doesn't fit in here, she doesn't fit in there, and for lack of a better term, her face is mutilated. She's got scarring on her face and the distended lip and everything. And then when she comes back,
and a plug in her nose as well.
Yeah, and a plug in her nose. And I there's like a couple of people that look at her and wince. And then she comes back home to find that she's a billionaire, and she doesn't want to get reconstructive surgery on her face because that's her whole identity, even though she's an outcast. I don't know. I find that to be like the X-Men, but without the superpowers. They're outcasts. They don't fit in anywhere. People shun them. And then the one guy that's, every time she gets into a romantic relationship, is it because of the money? Is it because, do they truly like them? I don't know. I think there's a lot, there's a lot in that character that I found fascinating.
Well, Kurt falls in love with her.
Right. I didn't want to spoil. I'm trying not. That's why I hesitated. I'm trying not to spoil the comic.
Well, it goes on for a while. He doesn't know that she's wealthy, and she won't let him feel her face.
Right.
That's what blind people do in order to discover somebody's, how they look. So I mean, that all happens in the first stories, but they're a little star-crossed, so I have fun with
it. Yeah, it's not that simple. Otherwise, it would be. It's not a Hallmark movie.
So let's move forward. I got
Sure.
this other
Let's talk
book.
about other stuff.
Okay, this book is out this week. My Time Machine.
Okay.
And it's full color. Wow.
Nice.
Okay. Anyway, a lot of pictures. Took me about 4 years of work. I wrote it before the pandemic started. And when the pandemic came crashing on us, I thought, oh, I'm going to have to ditch this book because I can't ignore the pandemic. It's an historical event.
Right.
And with a time travel story, you either got to just, bypass it completely or integrate it. So I ended up integrating it. And the book itself, okay, and then when the pandemic hit, once I was able to start working on it again, it got me through the worst of the pandemic. I just stayed home and worked every day for 3 years. And what else about it? It's more or less a contemporary sequel, loosely, of H.G. Wells's Time Machine. So, same sort of metaphysics of time travel with contemporary concerns, such as the pandemic, of course. Climate change is huge. And my other concerns are authoritarianism, because we're on at the crossroads of that right now, and AI, because we don't know if it's going to be good or evil.
Oh, it's going to be evil. They can exterminate humans. I mean,
it
we've all seen every AI movie. It never ends well.
Right. Or humans could exterminate themselves because we're that stupid. So I address all my fears in the book, but it's an adventure story, once she takes off into the future. And there's a little bit of jetpack flying a la Rocketeer.
Oh, cool.
And what else? My cat is in the book. It's a sparsely populated book because I just didn't need that many characters running in and out. Now, it's more realistic than I normally draw. I prefer to go very cartoony because it's fast and fun. This is more realistic, time intensive, and I was running back and forth with my iPhone on a timer, taking pictures of myself in various poses or hand gestures or swiping photos off the web so I could figure out how a man would look standing in such a position, etc. It took a lot of research for the visuals. And what else? So it was probably the most difficult thing I've ever done. And it's out now. And they did a beautiful job on the cover. It's hardcover with embossed.
Yeah, I just looked up.
And a shiny, rake.
I just ordered it now while we were talking, in case you were wondering why my eyes were moving. I'm a big fan of your work, so of course I had to.
With the designer at Fantagraphic, I designed this wraparound cover, and
I love Fantagraphics. I've been, every month I gave up looking at Marvel and I gave up looking at DC, but every month I still look to see what Fantagraphics is offering. It's such a good company.
Yeah, Gary was the one who, whenever I saw him in San Diego, he'd say, "Well, hey, when are you going to do us a graphic novel?" And this was always kind of in a time travel story was always in the back of my head for years. And so now it's done.
I'm working on my own comics, and I'm working on a time travel story, and I am so meticulous and nitpicky about time travel stories. So, like, what would you mentioned one of my favorite, which is H.G. Wells, and you said your book was sparsely populated. There's not too many characters in that book. I could only name like 3 characters. So it, but
well, Eloy and Morlocks are
right.
Kind of
they don't really have names. They just
yeah. Oh, except for Weena, and that was the first time travel story, and it was written in 1895. There's a lot he didn't know, but you could tell he was science-based. You could tell that he was into Darwin,
right,
and that his focus for Time Travel Forward was to see how humans evolved. So he had the Morlocks, more or less based on people who work in coal mines or
me. I'm a Morlock.
okay, they don't get a lot of sunshine, so they end up being underground dwellers. And the Eloi are the privileged class, mostly blonde, and they just become the prey,
right,
meat source for the Morlock. So I wanted my book to be even more science-based because we know more now.
right.
I know that we went through a couple of world wars and, 2 pandemics, big ones, the, 1917 and this one we're still kind of drifting through. And
did you get very sick, if you don't mind me asking?
oh, yeah, I got sick in late August, and I would have been okay if I hadn't flown to the East Coast. But it
Coming to the East Coast will do that to you. As an East Coaster, coming here will make you sick. I agree.
It was just, I should have been just really chilling out for longer than, but I'd feel good and I'd go do things and then bang. So, but I am over 70. I have to be careful.
Yeah.
Let's see. Back to where.
How long did it take you to? Because you wrote, you drew, you did the graphic design, you did everything for this book. Did you color it also?
Oh yeah.
How long did it take you from soup to nuts? To
about a year on writing and 3 years on art.
Wow.
With pauses for other things, but I think that's about it. And I don't know if I would have it in me to do another one. It's too isolating.
Oh, really? It's too isolating.
Yeah, which fit fine with the pandemic.
Right.
So back to my character's travel forward into time. Her interest, instead of evolution, is to see the effects of climate change, especially in California. We are our future looks pretty bad because nobody's really doing anything about this. I mean, we're doing baby steps where we should be taking giant steps. So, one of the things that I suffered through when I was living in Sacramento was being an hour and a half away from the Paradise Fire. It was poisonous, and really drives home that California is drying up and will probably burn. I've seen the future heat maps of California, and basically it's going to turn back into desert. And we don't know how long it'll take. So there's a lot of bullshitting in this book. I don't know when stuff is going to happen.
Right.
But it's fiction.
Right.
You know,
It's making a point through logical speculation. It's not
yeah,
a Bible, or whatever you
and
want to
it's
call
like we see unhoused people out on the street in tents. There are some of those in the book because that's going to be many people's fates in the future. Um, there was anyway, I don't want to get too into the weeds on that, but I explore crap that can happen. And then I just go directly to the year where Wells's time traveler met the Morlocks and Eloy, because I want to see how accurate was that account. I treat it as in the book as if it had really happened, and that the movie made about it was a documentary, George Pell's film. So I have an adventure in that time, and then in an effort to escape the antagonist in that era, I accidentally go all the way to 30 million years in the future. The book starts at that time period, so I'm not really giving anything away. It's a framing device I decided on.
I got to ask, is she using Wells's time machine, or is this a whole nother time machine?
It is based on Wells's time machine,
Okay.
but it is modern.
Okay.
It's got bells and whistles and runs on an iPad.
Because that movie with that, like, whatever you call it, that umbrellas thing is spinning around, it really is
spinning
beautiful.
disc.
Yeah.
Now, I was looking up, I used that model in 3 or 4 panels. So I was looking for screen grabs, and I rented the movie again and tried to do more screen grabs, but it was limiting. I came across a man in Wales. I think his name is Chris Bronham. And he used to be an Evel Knievel type stunt guy with motorcycles over buses, and he was quite famous in Great Britain. And retired now. He just knew somebody at MGM and got the plans for George Powell's version of the time machine. That very steampunk looking thing with brass and crystal and the giant disc that's painted nice with little
it is a gorgeous prop.
Yeah. And he built a full-size replica, and the wheel or disc even spins, and the lights light up, and you can move the levers, etc.
And then he used it to jump stuff in Britain, right?
He ended up selling it to someone in California. He wouldn't say who, but I assume that it's some rich person with that thing sitting in their living room.
Yeah.
So he kindly sent me photographs of various, different angles on the thing and close-ups. And sadly, I forgot to thank him in the acknowledgments in the book. His name is Chris with a CEH Bronham. Then as far as the machine that I designed for the book, I wanted to make it simple to draw, streamlined, because I don't want to waste my time drawing some steampunk thing. Plus, it would never have worked because you never know when you're going to end up in 70-degree below zero temperature or in a place where there's poisonous gas from a volcano.
See, you're thinking very scientifically. I love it.
Yeah, you need protection. So it's got a canopy. It is see-through because why time travel unless you can see out in, at least 180 degrees. And let's see, it's got a nice modern console with a monitor and plug-in for the iPhone, and everything works on an app now. So yeah, it's more.
Oh, tell me it's got a coffee pot and I'm sold.
No, I didn't say coffee.
There better be coffee in the future or I'm not going.
Well, it does have a little refrigerator for the veggies and so on. And what else about it? It can use jet thrusters to elevate in case there's, because in Wells's time travel theory, you can travel through time, but you're not going to travel in space. You're going to be absolutely static.
Right.
And the problem with that is stuff will change around you in time.
If I may, in college, I wrote a short story called The Difference Between Time and Space Travel. And it's two scientists are talking. And it starts out, the guy's like, they're stumped about this time travel. And he says, I have the idea. And he explains he was watching a fire and the fire fell and blah, blah, blah. And, and then his wife distracted him. And then when he was done talking to his wife, he came back and he looked at it from a different angle. Long story short, they figured out how to solve it. They do the watches, they throw the switch and they plunge 26 stories to their death because that building didn't exist in dinosaur times.
Yeah, you got
and the kids in my class didn't get it. My teacher was like, okay, that was clever, but I was like, oh, all right. Nobody else gets it. Time travel does not mean space travel. There's a difference.
Right.
Right. So I appreciate all the things you say. It's got to be mobile. There could be, you could flip that switch and you're underwater. You can flip that switch and you're in a volcano,
Yeah. So it's, my version comes equipped with sensors that can look ahead and see if there's an elevation or being underwater, anything like that. And it can raise or lower the machine.
Nice.
Yeah. So, and then the other thing that I did is there's a lot of problems with Wells's theories or, metaphysics of time travel. So I decided to figure out what was wrong with it and try to explain it, and I think I did a good job in that when you travel through time, there's going to be a physical effect on your body and brain.
Okay.
So my way of dealing with it is that when you're traveling through time, you hallucinate. And you don't know what's real.
Oh, that's interesting.
I know.
That's interesting. I remember reading years, I read from studies years ago when they were proposing jet travel. So we're talking, this is a time when human beings, the fastest they went was horse-drawn carriages, maybe primitive motor cars, maybe, you know what I mean? But they were saying when jets were being proposed, they didn't know what that would do to the brain. Would the speeds and the velocities cause people to hallucinate? So that's pretty fascinating. I didn't think of it in time travel.
Oh, I didn't know about that connection, but okay.
That's pretty clever. You hit all my time travel buttons.
Yeah. So,
I'm very picky about time travel stories, so yeah.
Oh well, I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah.
Anyway, that gave me an opportunity to do some trippy illustrations. A lot of splash pages with just montages of weird stuff going on.
Nice.
So those were fun. And what else? I've got AI antagonists. Anyway, it's loaded. It's I don't think it's the definitive time travel novel. I think other people will come up with variations, and
it's a fascinating subject. And who hasn't daydreamed about, if I could go back in time and fix this with a spouse, or fix this, invest in Apple stock or Bitcoin, or just see my parents one last time. And I think everybody daydreams about time travel.
Yeah.
And everybody has their own, and whether we realize now, I think we all develop our own logical rules about time travel. Like I get so mad in Back to the Future. I'm like, how that paint, the photograph wouldn't fade. I'm like, it was either taken or it wasn't taken. It wouldn't be in a state, you know. And then people call me crazy, and I get so mad. Torchbearer, my friend Steve, he's an artist. He wants to know, did you paint that oil painting behind you?
It's acrylic, and yes, I did.
Oh, cool.
There we go. That ex-boyfriend I mentioned earlier, who gave me the photo that I used for the Devo painting, and he's endlessly fascinating. He would paint these plaster statues with patchwork quilt or paisley patterns on a Cocker Spaniel, or he did some for the New Art Theater in Westwood. A couple of Greek statues of women, but like 3.5 feet tall or something, and he would just do these elaborate paintings on them with patterns, and they're gorgeous. So when we broke up, somebody said to me, because I was, he said, you should do something that you couldn't do when you were together. And so what I did was I symbolically busted up one of his statues. And
that's funny.
I think I did it in 2 days. It was just like the bang part and then the patterns. And so I still love that painting.
That's funny. Art, get through your feelings through art. You know.
Sure, art is great therapy.
Yeah.
If I'm pissed off, hurt, whatever, I tend to write about it and put it into a comic.
Okay. You just, I remember, you know, when I was in college, my roommate Jeff and I, you know, he was an artist. I always wanted to be a writer. He was a painter, sculptor, but realistically, he just was a way to get chicks to pose for him. You know, let's be realistic. And we were talking one night, like, again, involves time travel. If we had time travel and we could go back, like to Van Gogh and give him antidepressants and solved his depression and whatever, would he be a bad artist? Would he have never, like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, interesting question.
Yeah. So this was a question that we, like, it was just like maybe drunk, maybe smoke a little too much, and it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and we would constantly revisit this. You know, like, if Hitler was a successful painter, would he have become the dictator that history remembers? You know what I mean? Like, could art really could change things? I don't know. Like, what you're an artist. Do you think like the depression of Van Gogh is like you needed it? Like, I know Edgar Allan Poe had some mental health issues also. Like, and if you could cure them, it's like this is going to sound mean, but should you? Like, then you'd be depriving, like, let's just say for sake of argument, their mental state of mind is what makes them these brilliant artists. And I was their doctor, and I'm like, I'm going to withhold the cure because I know that the world would rather have you know what I mean? These are the kind of horrible arguments that me and my friends were having back in college days. And I kind of miss these arguments.
Yeah. Ethically, I'm in favor of the human.
Helping the person, right? Yeah, help the person. I err on the side of helping the person, you know. but these were fun experiments to discuss. I miss that. That, to me, that was my favorite part about college.
No, that's a good idea for a story.
Yeah, there you go. So I don't know.
Are you going to use it, or can I have it?
Good. If I could say that I had part of Carol Leigh writing a book and art, that's good enough for me. Yeah, Torchbearer says a lot of artists went nuts because the paints were toxic. Yeah, that's where the Mad as a Hatter came from, right?
That was mercury for the people who made hats.
Right. Yeah.
But
so we've been talking
probably toxins in the paints that work with back then because they made their own.
Right. A lot like
cadmium.
yeah, I'm trying to remember the name. There was a chemical that I think that like you didn't even have to inhale. It just got on your skin. And what artist doesn't get paint on their skin? It's going to drive me crazy until I remember it. But we've been talking for over an hour now. I tend to pontificate a lot. Is there anything that you wanted to say that I didn't give you a chance to talk about?
Well, I've also got, where is it? Oh, have you seen this? Let me pull it out of the shiny bag.
All right.
This is Project Cryptid. From
okay. You really want me to talk for another hour, huh?
Well, maybe a few more minutes. Anyway, I did the first story. Sarah Litt invited me to do a story. Here is, it's a sea monster story. Wait a minute, where's the sea monster?
What's the title of the book?
Well, it's Project Cryptid. I think this is close to the last issue because they've run out of cryptids, which is, Yeti or let me see. What would be another one? Loch Ness.
The Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot.
Yeah. So not more than an urban legend. People have sworn they've seen these things. Right. So, and I think they've run out of cryptids, and but I also enjoy Ahoy. Tom Payer is the editor there. He came out of Vertigo.
Yeah, Tom Payer. He did a really interesting Our Man series, which was time travel. I guess time travel is our theme today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, he invited me to do an illustration for a story they put in the back. And that was fun. And it was about time travel. Used time travel machines.
There we go. We're stuck in a loop.
I know, it just keeps coming back. And then he invited me to write a prose story, 700 words. And I did that. And I got bitten by that bug. And I've done close to 30 short stories for various titles in the Ahoy line.
Oh, this is Ahoy Comics, right? Project Cryptid. I was just Googling it as you were talking.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I also did a 10 or 12 page story for what did they call it? The snifter of Edgar Allan Poe's Snifter of Terror. And those were just all takeoffs on Edgar Allan Poe stories that are just done to the nines. There's some really brilliant work in various issues. And what else? Okay, and then
Tom Payer also, I forgot. I was like, why? He's writing a comic called Wrong Earth right now.
Right, that's for Ahoy.
It is so good. I
know.
I freaking love that comic.
Yeah. Okay, and then I've got
Murderville.
Here's one comic I did. I produced this myself through a Kickstarter, and I would never do that again. It's just.
I'm in the process of crowdfunding a comic right now, and I'm just about to do the fulfillment portion of it, and it's rough. I'm doing it all myself.
Is what killed me.
Oh yeah.
Because I was doing portraits of people and their pets and their babies, and it's like that took me so many months. And then after you pay taxes, shipping, buy the packaging, get the printing done, hire people to help you get this done on time, etc. It's just I was underwater, even though I apparently made money on this thing. Nope. Totally underwater.
I didn't even do fulfillment yet.
Recommend it.
I didn't do fulfillment yet, and I'm underwater. So there you go.
Okay. But anyway, back to Murderville. I had to change the name to Murderburg because Murderville with Will Arnett dropped on Netflix about a year and a half ago. And right as, I was getting things together for this book. And I just go, no, curse you, Will Arnett, you stole my title. But no, he didn't steal a title. What happened is the American TV show, which is kind of, it's all right. it's based on a British show called Murder in Successville, which is a terrible name.
It
So
is.
what they did is they cut out in Success and made it Murderville. So I changed my title to Murderburg, which I actually prefer now, because then I go, well, they got to have a fast food stand called Murder Burgers. So I drew a kind of goofy.
Oh man, a hotel called the Murder Inn.
Ooh, no, it's I forget what Murder Inn is pretty good. Let's see. But anyway, it started out as, well, it had a few different starts, but now it's all integrated into one book that will be coming out in February with a new 16-page story.
Oh, cool.
So I think that's 260 pages, full
Nice.
color. And that will be through Fantagraphics FU imprint, which stands for Fantagraphics Underground, not the other. And let me see, what else about it? I don't know. I'm really looking forward to that one, because as I was improving it, like, oh, that character's head is too big, or, I could write this just a little tighter, etc. The stuff was making me laugh out loud. So I am looking forward to that book coming out.
Oh, me too.
Maybe even more than my time machine, just because my time machine was so much work, whereas Murderburg was so much fun.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm looking at it through a different perspective than other people might.
Yeah. Like, because I'm doing my own crowdfunded for my own comic right now, and writing the script was fun. Seeing the art come in was fun, because I can't draw to save my life, so I had to hire an artist. Hiring a colorist, seeing it lettered. But I'll tell you, moving files around and formatting it, oh my God, it's making me hate everybody. You know what I mean? Like, I just got notification today that everything was completely finalized. It's, printing is happening, starting, you know what I mean? But the computer stuff, moving file, I felt like a guy worked at the DMV, just shuffling files. You know what I mean? It took a beautiful piece of art, and it just, made it work. So I agree with you. Like, you even smiled when you said Murderburg. You know what I mean? It looks fun. So
thank you. Yeah.
So like I said, I'm a big fan, and I've been wanting to talk. I've been I don't know if you realize, but I've been trying to. I reached out to you over a year ago, if you remember, if you follow the email train. We've been going back and forth. I think
I was in the, oh God, I was buried in work, so I don't remember. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I was looking forward to talking to you for a long time, and it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed. I just enjoy talking to people about comic books. I think comic books are the best medium. I like people like you. Like you said, you don't do superheroes. I like superheroes. That's my bread and butter. But I Love and Rockets is coming at you from this completely different direction. I love it. Like I love all those Toronto artsy guys. Like why can't I think of his name now? Seth and the other guy who just died who did Peep Show, Joe Matt. Like I love.
Matt died. Huh.
Yeah. Joe Matt died like a year ago, I think.
Oh, I hadn't heard. Okay.
Yeah, 14 issues of Peep Show. That was so good and so bizarre and different. I talked to Dave Sim for a couple of months, but he just doesn't want to come on anybody's channel. But he to the point he was calling me up to finish the conversations. What a great guy. So I'm enjoying all of this. I enjoy talking to comic book people. It's so much fun. I love hearing your stories. And now I'm gushing just like you do when you meet Mark.
Okay, well, if you'd like a little weekly dose, I have a strip on Go Comics.
Okay.
It's called Ley Lines. And lately I've had the time to do new stories. I had a weekly strip that started in the LA Weekly, and then I picked up the San Francisco Examiner, New York Press. It never reached lift off like Life in Hell did or Linda Berry, but it sustained me for a long time. And I've just kept it going, even though the only place it's seen anymore is online on Go Comics.
Go Comics. So if I put that in the description, just www.gocomics.
I think so, and then search for Carol Lay or Ley Lines.
Okay, I'm searching for right now.
I've got a little Halloween strip up right now. I've gotten a little political lately, so the trolls have been a problem because I'm liberal.
Well, who isn't getting political right now?
Yeah.
I'm trying to avoid it because, like, even people I agree with are getting insufferable. So I like.
Oh yeah. No, it's torture right now. I just want to, go to a tropical island for at least 2 weeks.
Yeah, Bruce Campbell just posted on Twitter, I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. I'm turning off the TV. I'm turning off Twitter. I'm turning off everything. And you know what? I agree with him. So here we go. I found it. Go Comics, Ley Lines. And you update this weekly, you said?
I put up a new strip every week. Sometimes it's a reprint if I'm too busy with other jobs. And what else? There's a little slug on there for a link to my, not a link, but a slug for my Patreon page.
Okay.
And yeah, there we are.
We got creepy clowns. We got undead bumpkins. Creepy haunted town.
It's a 2-line poem.
Sexy nurses. Of course, that I don't know why, but that somehow attracted my attention.
Oh, sexy nurses? Yeah, they're always popular. I was one once.
But thank you so much for talking. I really, really enjoyed this. Come if you ever want to come back, I'll reach out to you in a couple of months and we'll talk again if you would like to. But I like I said, I'm gushing.
It's fun. It's like having a real conversation.
Well, that's why I call these conversations. People always say you interview people. I don't interview anybody.
Right.
Yeah, I just like to have a talk with people, and see where it goes. Like I write down a few little notes because I get nervous and I don't want to look stupid. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Ever since the car accident, I can't remember anything anymore.
Oh gosh. well, best of luck on recovery from that.
Thank you. Yeah. And best of luck with you. Like I said, I'm a big fan. I'm so glad to finally talk with you. This was pure joy. Oh, what's that? Oh,
Buddy.
What's his name?
Buddy.
A Buddy?
His name was always Buddy, according to Sting.
I'm a cat person myself.
Yeah. No, David Bowie. Sorry, I got those two mixed up. He's in the book, My Time Machine.
Oh, the cat's name is Bowie?
No, Buddy.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but in the book, I started out putting in a lot of little Easter eggs that refer to popular music. Like Coming Down is the Hardest Thing from Tom Petty.
Right.
Or His Name Was Always Buddy from Bowie. Or I reference a Caravan Palace title called Lone Digger. And there's a Joni Mitchell line in there that is key. So, and I was getting too cute with it, so I pared it down, but there's still a few in there for the more perceptive reader to see.
Yeah, I think, and here I offering you advice, when you pepper things with like topical humor, kind of dates everything.
Yeah.
So I as tempting as it is to like, do some popular meme that you see on Twitter, that immediately ties that piece of work to right then and there. And so that's 6 month period even. So I try not to do that. Yeah. Okay. But I'm going to go have dinner because I have 2 other shows tonight. Wednesdays are my big interview. Now I'm saying interviews, my big conversation days with people. So I'm going to go eat for this 2-hour window that I have before. I'll be back at 7:00 and with Justin Belmont. He's launching his comic, so we're going to be talking about that.
All right. Well, bon appetit, and thank you so much. This was
thank you so much. This was so much fun. I enjoyed this.